Welcome in, everyone, to the Week 16 episode of Craze's Corner. We're going to be touching on some impacts of COVID, how it's going to affect your fantasy football playoffs this week. We're going to break down what we think, some big predictions for tonight's game. Obviously, we're recording this on the Thursday. You'll be watching this on the Friday or later, but we're going to, make some predictions so you guys can either make fun of us or be like, that guy knows what he's talking about. We're going to talk about some guys you probably want to bench this week in your playoffs, as well as some Pro Bowl snubs. You're definitely going to want to stay tuned. But we're going to start with some news. The Buccaneers have some terrible news. Godwin is going to be out for the season. He's been placed on IR. He will not be returning at all. He's a pending free agent this upcoming season. The Buccaneers also placed Leonard, Fournette, and Lavonte David on IR with hopes that those two return for the playoffs. The second story, the Panthers QB carousel continues as Sam Darnold has been cleared for contact, but Matt Rule told Sam Darnold, be ready, but you're not going to be starting. It's going to be Cam Newton this week. But as I said, Sam Darnold was told to be ready. So if Cam Newton slips up, you definitely expect Sam Darnold to be put in there. And then the third story is Daniel Jones has been placed on IR and he will miss the rest of the season. This leaves lots of questions in New York as David Gettleman is likely on the way out. So will Daniel Jones be back with the Giants next season? Will he be their starting quarterback? I want to know what you guys think. So do that. Use the media app. It's a virtual press conferencing app that's available on Google Play and App Store. It allows you to basically host your own virtual press conference, and then it's very easy to post on any social medias. So if you guys do that, you can definitely tag me, Pro Football Craze or Media, and we'll check out your answers and definitely respond. But yeah, definitely let us know what you think. But yeah, check it out. It's on the Google Play and App Store. And now let's welcome in our guest. We have Will tonight. Welcome in, Will.
Hey, it's just the two of us, Zach.
Yeah, just the two of us tonight. What are your thoughts on the Daniel Jones situation? You think he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Giants next season?
Unless the Giants can get another veteran, I'm not sure the draft is the solution because I'll be honest with you, I don't think there's any quarterback coming out this year that's going to be better than Daniel Jones next year. Mm-hmm. So unless the Giants are going into complete rebuild again, they either have to go get a veteran or they're better off trying to build that offense around Daniel Jones and, keep him from getting hurt.
Yeah, I mean, he's still under contract next season. So if I'm the Giants, as you said, the draft this year is looking kind of bleak for quarterbacks high up. So maybe they take a shot on someone later on in the draft and then roster Daniel Jones and him going forward. Maybe Jake Fromm balls out rest of season. As he's going to be starting going forward. And then it's Jake Fromm versus Daniel Jones come off OTAs. So, it's definitely a big story. There's a chance. He looked all right. Yeah. He looked all right on his last drive. He looked much better than Mike Glennon had. So,
yeah,
we've seen weirder things happen in the NFL. I want to briefly touch on the COVID impact this week. Dalvin Cook. He's been placed on the COVID list, and he is out as he is not vaccinated. So he will definitely be missing this game. Other notable players on the COVID list currently, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill for the Chiefs. The Saints just placed both of their quarterbacks who've started games in the NFL, Trevor Siemian and Taysom Hill, leaving them with Ian Book and Alvin Kamara as the quarterbacks unless they sign someone. But yeah, so look out for Alvin Kamara throwing some passes if they don't bring in another quarterback. But I'm feeling they'll bring in someone kind of like the Browns did where they brought in Nick Mullins. So yeah, I'd expect them to sign someone. But yeah, COVID is going to have a massive impact on all of your fantasy football playoffs this year with the outbreak just happening just before the fantasy football playoffs start. And now if you're like me where you have Dalvin Cook everywhere, hopefully you have Alexander Madison to plug and play for him because if you don't, and you're –
Well, there's a sneaky pickup there is Nwanga.
Yeah.
Because he got a couple touches last week. And now I know it was different. The Bears defense probably played it different when he was on the field. But I actually think I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings give him more touches this week. And kind of use him at least, especially on passing downs. I would not be surprised if they used him But I guess it'll come down to protection too, because Madison is pretty good at picking up pressure. And after watching that Bear Viking game, if I'm Sam Darnold, I may set the all-time record for sacks in a game.
Yeah, and as you said, like no, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's been explosive when the ball has been in his hands. So it's definitely something to watch out if you're in a super deep league and you're in the playoffs looking for a running back to start. You could definitely do worse than Minnesota's second running back, because we've seen games before with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison where they both do good. So maybe that's the situation there. Let's briefly touch on tonight's game for us. It'll be in the past. We have the game of the 49ers versus the Titans. I think the 49ers win this game. Most people, Jeff Wilson, he had a big game last week and not super high on him this week. The Titans' run defense has been fairly good. I think Deebo Samuel will probably score on the ground again. But if I'm going to pick someone to have a massive week, I think I'm not going to be surprised if Brandon Ayuk has a big week. The Titans secondary has been struggling. So yeah, I think Brandon Ayuk could put up, 20 plus fantasy points this week, score once or twice, have over 100 yards. And I definitely think you're going to be happy if you started Brandon Ayuk. So, Brandon Ayuk, that nice touchdown snag he made in the back corner of the end zone. That was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm all high on Deebo Samuels tonight. I think there's a game, he should be back from that injury. He's probably close to 100% now. And I just think he's going to have a good night for the Niners. I think you're right, Zach. I think the Niners win this. I know everybody's thinking Titans. I get A.J. Brown's back, and the Titans have looked good the last few weeks, to be honest with you. I think for where everybody thought the drop-off was going to happen. But, I just think the Niners are hot right now. They're the hottest team in the NFL, and I wouldn't want to play them.
No, I definitely wouldn't want to play them because they have been extremely hot as of late. Do you think Deebo Samuel has a big?
Yeah, I had to pick one guy tonight to play.
Yeah,
it would be Deebo Samuel. Yeah,
definitely for sure. You definitely aren't starting Deebo, and with Mitchell still being out, there's a good chance he scores again through the ground, which just boosts your opportunities. But let's get into some players, some sits. We're gonna be talking mostly sits today. I'm gonna start off at the quarterback position. This guy's missing his top two weapons. His starting running back, that's Tom Brady, going up against Carolina's defense, who has been good as of late. Everyone was like, "Oh, Stephon Diggs is gonna have a massive week last week." He only ended up with like 14 points, which is exactly where I said he would be around. And I said on the show, Gabriel Davis was probably going to be the guy to beat the Panthers secondary, and he had a massive week. But yeah, I think Tom Brady has a down week coming off a bad week against the Saints. I think the Panthers probably look at some of that. Obviously, the Buccaneers are going to as well, but Antonio Brown's coming back. He's going to be by far the number one wide receiver, locked up against Stephon Gilmore all game. And then to me, it's going to come down to, can Scotty Miller make some plays? And I'm not quite sure if Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson are going to be able to emerge enough for Tom Brady without the rushing upside to be a top 10 quarterback this week. So yeah, if you can get some other options, I'm definitely looking towards that. What are your thoughts on Tom Brady this week?
It'll be interesting because Carolina's, like you always say, Zach, Carolina's defense is I think it's top. Honestly, the record doesn't show up, but they're probably top 8 in the NFL when they're playing. And we all saw what happened with a good defense last week. And Brady doesn't have his tools. And I think this is a hard game for Brady. And I would hate to have him on my roster as my only QB for this week.
Yeah, just looking, Tom Brady's currently projected at 10. So here's some guys that are projected below him. You got Jalen Hurts against New York. You starting Jalen Hurts over Tom Brady?
Actually, this week, yeah.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan versus Detroit. I think I'd rather start Matt Ryan in that matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it's not about it. And I don't know, people, oh my God, you're saying Matt Ryan's a better quarterback. No, what I'm saying is Matt Ryan has better tools around him than Tom Brady does this week.
Exactly. In the matchup against Detroit, it's definitely a much better matchup.
Yeah.
than the Carolina matchup. You want to bring up your first sit player of the week, Will?
I'm sitting. Okay, so I'm gonna lean heavy on a COVID theme here. So after what happened with Dalvin Cook today, I'm sitting Kirk Cousins. Watching that Viking Bear game, Aaron Donald. I was gonna say Sam Donald. Aaron Donald is gonna, I think, have a very big game for the Rams. And without Dalvin Cook, I think the Rams are gonna dare the Vikings to run the ball. I do. I think they're gonna take the pass away, whether Thielen plays or not, and they're gonna dare the Vikings to run the ball. And I think if I was the Rams, I'd be feeling pretty good about my front four against the Vikings offensive line. And then I think my offense is going to put points up on the Vikings. So as soon as the Vikings have to give up the run, and those defensive linemen know it's all about getting to Cousins, especially Cousins doesn't like pressure at his feet in front of him. I think this could be a very long day for Kirk Cousins. And if you have another option, I would start somebody else.
Yeah, I agree as well. Kirk Cousins was below Tom Brady in the projections, but I did not bring him up because I would rather start Tom Brady over Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as you said, the pressure that they're going to get, the Vikings line, not sure if Darisaw is going to play or not, but they have been lower echelon, so going up against a great defensive line. With Von Miller, Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, like there's some guys who can definitely get at it. And then their secondary is pretty good as well. We got Jalen Ramsey in there and everything. So, yeah, I definitely can get behind not starting Kirk Cousins this week. He's on my dynasty roster. I have two great quarterbacks anyways, so he's on my bench most of the time. But I would not be putting him over, Dak Prescott, who's been struggling.
Yeah.
Being in Dallas, do you have any insight on why Dak Prescott has been so bad for fantasy as of late? Are you worried at all that this is going to be, or you think he can bounce back this week against Washington?
Look, if Dak Prescott was the starting quarterback on Jacksonville, I mean, look, it's part of it, and I'm not knocking Dak. I think Dak's a good, probably top 10 NFL quarterback, honestly. I mean, I'm not saying he's not, but I'm not sure he's what everybody tried to hype him into being. And the fact that he's struggling with all his tools in his toolbox, they're all healthy, they're all playing, and he's off. He is off throwing the ball. And Dak seems like a really good team guy, the public perception, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if he's just playing with pain and trying to overcome it. But at some point, if you're the Cowboys, are you really going to go in the playoffs? I mean, I'd rather I know you're trying to play for that home field advantage. I don't think they can catch the Packers. And if I was them, I'd be more worried about Dak being healthy than I would about where I am seated in the playoffs right now. Cowboys are going to make the playoffs. They're going to win the division.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think they've clinched yet, but they're going to win the division. So, honestly, I'd probably give Dak as much time off as I could, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what they should do. He's put up back-to-back weeks with under 15 points. So, I have seen a lot of questions revolving around Dak Prescott this week. He's facing the worst defense against the pass, so he has all the opportunities to make it this week if he can. I'm starting him over Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield in my Dynasty League. I'd still start Dak over a lot of other options this week just because of the matchup, and I think, with the tools there, CeeDee Lamb, he just has to make one guy miss, and then you're going to get a touchdown off that. And, with Zeke, Pollard being back, he should be closer to being fully healthy. I think this is the week where Dak kind of gets back into it, and, fantasy managers stop worrying. But yeah, I just wanted to bring him up quickly because I have had a lot of questions about him. But next I'm going to talk about a running back who I'm trying not to start this week. That's going to be James Conner if he even plays.
Yeah.
He only put up 8 points last week, and they're playing Indianapolis, who has an amazing defense. I've been high on Indy all season. And last week they really showed out that, they are a contender. They beat the Pats. And, to me, with James Conner not being 100% going up against what I consider to be a really good defense against the run, it's not a great matchup. The Cardinals haven't looked the same. Chase Edmonds is still going to be back. So, then he's losing some time on the field. He's losing some targets to Chase Edmonds. So I know James Conner has probably carried you to your playoffs, but if you have some other options, I'm definitely leaning that way. What are your thoughts on James Conner?
Oh, I'm all in for Edmonds this weekend because I think they're gonna. I mean, if I'm Arizona, I'm a little worried. You know, do you really want to be limping into the playoffs? And this is a chance to show not the country, not the rest of the NFL. This week is a chance for Arizona to show themselves, are they the team they thought they were?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think they had a lot of hype at the start of the season. But if you look at some of those games, yeah, they were wins, but they weren't wins.
No.
So, you know, I think that's in their heads. And it'll be interesting to see how they do. I wouldn't, honestly, I'll put this out there. I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona loses their first playoff game and doesn't go past the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm at that point with them as well. They play Indy this week. I think they lose to Indy, and I think they lose to Dallas next week as well. Yeah. As long as Dak's playing, yeah, I think they lose that game. But yeah, I definitely like Chase Edmonds more than James Conner this week. Just looking at sleepers projections, some guys that are projected to score less points that I'd rather have over James Conner. Joe Mixon, Montgomery. I'd rather start Sanders, Chubb. I'd rather start a guy like Ronald Jones if you picked him off waivers. Now that Leonard Fournette is out, they did sign Le'Veon Bell, but I don't think Le'Veon Bell gets super involved this week. That's a future thing with Bell and Brown being reunited in Tampa Bay. I'd rather start a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Diontae Foreman, AJ Dillon, Sony Michel, Javonte Williams. There's so many other guys below him. I would even go as far to say as I would rather start Cordero Patterson over James Conner. And that hurts me.
I was here for that.
That hurts me to say. I don't think Cordero Patterson has a massive game or anything, but I'd rather start Cordero Patterson with the matchup against Detroit over James Conner. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with James Conner. I'm trying my very hardest not to start him anywhere. Let's move on from James Conner. Don't want to talk about Cordero Patterson any more than we have to.
Right. I'm going to save you on that. I'm going to switch to the Saints, though, and I'm going to go a whole position group with the Saints. I'm not touching any Saint wide receiver the rest of the year. None of them. The only player worth playing on the Saints right now is Alvin Kamara. That's it. And their defense. Actually, their defense and Kamara's it. Yeah. Nobody else.
I agree. Like Callaway had a massive game last week. I think he led the league in receiving yards. So I have seen him being picked up in a couple leagues, but I'm definitely not looking to start, especially against
with you and I playing quarterback.
Yeah, with Ian Book and Alvin Kamara playing quarterback. Not looking forward to that. I think that the Miami Dolphins secondary as well, Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, I think they're both great corners, so that doesn't bode well. But yeah, as you said, this bodes well for Alvin Kamara, who should he should be on the field majority of the time. Like, you see, they take him out at the most random of times, and it pisses me off as a fantasy manager. It'll be like 3rd and 12, and they'll have Mark Ingram in the backfield for some reason. And I'm like, you have one of the most explosive running backs in the entire league, and you're just like, nah, I don't want to play him. Let's just go with the old Mark Ingram. Like, I get sometimes you need to spell him, give him a break, but they pick weird times. But this week, I think now they're going to have to get Kamara more involved in the passing game, which PPR bodes well. But yeah, as you said, Callaway, I'm not touching Callaway. I'm not touching any of their tight ends either. I'm not. Traquan Smith, Chris Hogan.
None. I wonder if they run the option this week.
Yeah. Very.
If I was them, that's why I would try to keep this game like they did last week. We're going to win this game 9-6. We're going to win this game 9-7. We're going to run the ball. We're going to run as much time off every play clock, and we're going to put it on our defense the best we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're running the ball. Kamara only had 11 carries last week.
Yeah,
like Kamara
he'll have that in the first quarter. He'll have that in the first quarter.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be surprised as well because Miami's run defense is nowhere near as good as Tampa's run defense was. So yeah, for me, don't touch any of the. I agree fully. Do not touch any of the wide receivers for the Saints. With that being said, let's transition to mine which is kind of a similar thing. I'm talking about a backfield here for running backs. This backfield had the leading point scorer from last week, Duke Johnson, but I'm not starting any of the Miami Dolphins running backs in that same game. The Saints defense has been great. Duke Johnson emerged last week. What does that mean for Gaskin? What does it mean for Ahmed? What does that mean for Malcolm Brown now that he's coming back as well? It means that they're all going to play. They're all going to touch the ball. None of them is going to be that bell cow. Duke Johnson, I'm seeing being picked up everywhere, but he was really only the bell cow last week because Gaskin missed all week's practice. Same with Ahmed. And Phillip Lindsay's also there, who I didn't even mention before, and he missed all of last week's practice as well, so now he's back. Everyone's going to get a full week of practice. You can't have 5 running backs that all have an equal chance, in my opinion, to probably touch the ball. I don't trust the coaching staff that way. So, yeah, there is not a single Dolphins running back I would want to start. What you feel the same way about their
I think honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Tua had the most rushing yards for Miami this week.
Yeah.
And if Miami was smart, that's what I would do to New Orleans' defense. Because Tua has tools, and the running backs can be part of that tools on out of the backfield, screens, out of the backfield, short routes in the flat. But I'm gonna make watching that game last week with Tampa Bay, the way I would pressure New Orleans defense is to make them have to account for Tua from a passing play. And I would tell Tua, if it's not there, take off. Run.
Yeah. I'm just looking at some other running backs, I'd rather start at Darrell Williams, Latavius Murray, and Amir Abdullah. I'd rather start those guys over some of the Miami backfield. Yeah, I think Amir Abdullah.
I like Amir. I think he's a good running back. But look, and we're talking about fantasy playoffs, championships, and we're talking about Amir Abdullah. Come on,
he's got to have a better chance of scoring points than any of the Dolphins running backs. That's for sure. I'd start him over Duke Johnson in a heartbeat. Because Amir Abdullah, he scored last week for the Panthers, put up like 14, I think, depending on your scoring. And I'm not going to be surprised if he does more of the same. They got him involved in the passing game. It worked well. If Cam Newton gets pulled, Sam Darnold's going to absolutely love to have that check down back. He loved having Christian McCaffrey in the game with him. Amir Abdullah kind of fits that. Chuba has had his opportunity, but hasn't been great. And the Panthers have literally drawn plays up for Amir Abdullah. So I'm not trying to start Amir Abdullah. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I'd rather start Amir Abdullah. That's kind of how far out I am on the Miami Dolphins backfield. But who is your third player or position group that you are not touching this week?
So, look, I'm probably staying away from the Giants because I think Philly's another team that's just hot right at the moment. And with Daniel Jones being out for the year, so let's just say Saquon Barkley,
I think
I'm not playing him. If I have other options, and I mean like options, and I'm stretching the word options here as best I can, but
James Conner or Saquon Barkley?
Okay, so I would probably play Barkley in that situation because I think Indianapolis is going to kill the running game against Arizona.
Yeah. But I just throwing out a name that I know a lot of people got in later rounds that they might actually have on the roster with Saquon.
Yeah, I'm just hesitant in the Giants. They just the team looks like it's just like has an attitude of I don't care.
Yeah, I think Saquon does have some. I think he has a high floor this week with the rookie quarterback starting. Freddie Kitchens is going to be, Saquon Barkley. We're going to just screens, checkdowns. Saquon should get involved in the passing game.
That game is in Philly. That crowd is hostile. This just has
but that's the only way
all over it for it.
The only way they're going to be able to move the ball is by getting Saquon the ball out of the backfield in the passing game. So in PPR, he had 8 targets last week.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be surprised he had double-digit targets this week as well as double-digit carries. But yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. I'm not starting any of the Giants wide receivers or anything like that. I'd hope you're not, especially with Jake Fromm starting at quarterback, not touching him. But yeah, Saquon is definitely an interesting. I've had him on my bench because I had Dalvin Cook starting, and now Dalvin Cook is not starting. So Saquon has moved his way into my starting lineup alongside Alvin Kamara.
Okay, I'm telling you, I think Nwongo from the Vikings has more fantasy points this week than Barkley. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The Giants just look like a disaster that's ready to just – the coach is going to be fired. The GM is going to be fired. If I'm the players, I'm not trying to get hurt. If I'm Barkley, I'm like, I'm not trying to get hurt. This ain't worth it, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough because, he's got to worry about getting his next contract because that's coming up soon for him as well. As you said.
Right?
Similar situation to where I think kind of where Darren Waller is right now. We're like, he's hurt, but maybe the Raiders make that playoff push. Maybe they don't. I don't expect Darren Waller to play this week.
Yeah.
He very well might play. If I had to guess, he didn't practice again today. If he's not practicing today, he's probably not playing on the weekend. Right. That's that's kind of the rule I use. Only guys who I think can't practice, come Thursday, if you're playing on the weekends, probably your starting quarterback, like Lamar Jackson still has a chance to play, I think. But
well, it'll be interesting to see if the NFL moves any games again.
Yeah.
I know they're saying they're not going to, but
so from what I've seen that the NFL has been doing, they're only moving games that are having multiple people on the same team test positive leading up to the game, trying to avoid the outbreak. I saw a lot of people last week, they're like all up in arms, like, oh, why aren't they moving this game? We're missing whatever. And the NFL doesn't care who you're missing. The NFL only cares how many people are testing positive leading up to the game. And that's what caused the games to be postponed last week because each team was having, 5 to 10 players test positive a day. And if you have that on a game day, you can't. So far, there's been a couple teams, and I think we will, probably by the time you're watching this, they'll have already made their decision whether or not they're pushing teams back because teams have to fly out and everything. I kind of expect, if there's another outbreak, maybe 1 or 2 games to be pushed back, but I don't expect too much. Just due to the fact that the NFL is not going to, if it's a Saints game, Saints fans are going to be up in arms. Oh, we don't have our quarterback, but the NFL doesn't care. If they placed, I think, 9 players on the COVID list today. So if they keep up around that, 5 to 9 players a day, that game will probably get pushed back to Tuesday to give them an extra day. But at that point, once it gets pushed back to Tuesday, that's a game that's going to get canceled if they keep having 5 to 10. And that counts as a loss for the Saints because they do have that forfeit rule in place. Or if they can't postpone the game, it's just a forfeit for whatever team the NFL feels is unsafe to continue. But that's it. The people.
It's going to be a mess because I think we're going to see a team have to forfeit a game this year.
It's very possible we will. I don't know what they're going to do come playoff time. You can't forfeit a playoff game. And if there's an outbreak, you can push it back, okay, but you're missing out on that prime opportunity, so I don't even know if the NFL would want to do that. I wouldn't be surprised to come playoff time. They're just playing because they don't care.
So let's say Super Bowl is Packers Chiefs or Packers Colts.
Yeah, because Aaron Rodgers isn't vaccinated. I don't think the NFL cares about that. It's just,
Would they really not play the Super Bowl if Aaron Rodgers got sick?
No, they'd play it.
I think they'd play it too.
They definitely play it. They don't care. Like I said, they don't care who's missing. They only care how many people
are on the team. Yeah, but I don't know how you justify that. Who's broadcasting the Super Bowl this year? Fox?
I think
because that would kill the ratings.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is the NFL should probably go into a bubble for the playoffs.
They should. The bubble worked extremely well for the NBA.
For the NBA. And I know the players are going to be mad. I think you have to go into a bubble. And I don't even know how you do that, to be honest with you.
It's extremely hard. So definitely for the teams, the NFL's not going to do anything, but definitely because you have 2 weeks off in between your last playoff game, the NFC Championship game, and the Super Bowl. So if I'm anything to do with that team, I'm making my team form a bubble there for sure because you have the 2 weeks off.
You could bubble in LA because you have 3 stadiums you can use.
Mm-hmm. It's just there's a lot of people on an NFL team compared to the NBA team, which is what's kind of prevented it.
But if you're going to bubble in the playoffs, you're going to have to bubble where the Super Bowl is.
Yeah.
Because you can't have teams flying back and forth. So that at least you would have 3 stadiums.
Yeah. Yeah, and you only need 2 a day.
Well,
for the
as long as it's
playoffs.
not the first round.
The first round you only need 2 a day, right? Oh no,
No, yeah. Well, no, you need 3 a day,
3 a
right?
day.
So
Yeah,
you could
so
do
which would
Saturday.
work.
You could play the Coliseum, you could play at SoFi,
Mhm.
and you could play at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. The only problem is teams have already started selling. I think the Cardinals have already started selling playoff tickets and stuff, which would screw some people over. But
Well,
yeah,
you
that's
talk about
definitely
Packer fans losing it if they lost home field advantage.
yeah. Yeah, Packers fans losing home field advantage due to it. I don't think the NFL will go into a bubble. I think it's a great idea. I just think it's kind of impractical with, like you say, like, right now you have 53 players on the roster plus, 15 practice squad.
Yeah, it's just
You're up to over 65 players on a team to quarantine 14 teams.
so I guess what will eventually happen is the NFL will just say, we're going to just stop testing.
Yeah, that's what I think they're going to do. They're just going to play.
They're just going to play.
Yeah,
We don't care.
Think come playoff time, they're just going to play. And if people are out, they might test people out, but I don't think they postpone any games, and I don't think they cancel any games.
I don't even think they're going to. I think the way they've been talking about. Oh well, they kept saying all week, right? We don't have any recorded cases of a spread of the COVID in a game.
Yeah, exactly.
So if that's the case, does it matter if somebody has COVID or not?
I mean, there's definitely players who have played who have had COVID.
Right.
Like Odell played, and then next morning he tested positive. Yeah, he had it, and he didn't. There's no proof he transitioned it to anyone through the game.
Right, and the incubation period isn't 1 day, so he had it,
and he was playing.
Exactly.
So there's definitely that to watch out for.
I think you're right. The NFL will just probably say,
"Oh well, yeah," because you can't postpone playoff games. You can't forfeit playoff games. And I don't think they can bubble. So their only option is to just be like, whatever.
The other way.
Yeah, and with the new variant, it spreads extremely quickly. It's not quite as serious as some of the other ones. So maybe they take that into consideration as well, where
and then if someone gets sick and they can't play because they really physically are too ill,
then it's like the flu.
Yeah, sorry.
You kind of just treat it as like, you're out for illness. I think that's what they're going to end up doing come. Because because they really don't have many other options.
Yeah.
You can't. The fans will not allow you to forfeit a game.
Yeah.
And the numbers aren't going to allow you to bubble. So.
And you can't move the Super Bowl back. Because people bought tickets, hotels.
You can't move. No, you can't. You can't, especially for the Super Bowl. There's no way. Like I said, if I'm a team that's in the Super Bowl, my players were renting out a hotel. Everyone's quarantining in their room for those 2 weeks. No going out partying that we made the Super Bowl or anything like that. Because as you said, if there's a quarterback, I know there's a few quarterbacks there.
The bus driver I have driving the bus back every day with me.
He's staying.
You're quarantined with. I'm paying you $100,000 to live in a hotel with me for a week.
Exactly. Same with anyone. Like they're literally going to rent it. You've got to rent out an entire hotel in wherever.
Yep.
You make sure that everyone who's working at the hotel or whatever, you pay them whatever you need to make sure you don't. Because if you have a COVID outbreak for the Super Bowl, like you said, there's some teams that have multiple important unvaccinated players.
Yeah.
Like I know the Vikings have a few unvaccinated players. Like if they were, exactly. So if they were a contending team, I don't think they are, but if they were a contending team, that'd be terrible. But as you said, Aaron Rodgers, he's definitely got a good shot to make it.
Yeah.
The Bucs have had their own scandals with the whole vaccine thing. Now they're all apparently vaccinated, but
we love Antonio Brown.
He's quite the guy. He's quite the guy. He's gonna have a massive week this week. I think even though I'm not starting Tom Brady, I'm starting Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's gonna see targets upon targets upon targets.
Right. Definitely.
I'm not. Yeah. And if Mike Evans plays, that means Antonio Brown's just not gonna be on Stephon Gilmore, which makes it even more appealing. Because Diontae Jackson.
There's some good games this weekend.
There are a lot of good games this weekend. I was looking at that too. I was trying to make my picks. I was like, who the hell? Because, as you said, we got tonight's game, which I think is going to be a good game. The Colts and the Cardinals should be a good game.
Mm-hmm.
What other games? We got the Bengals and the Ravens. Yeah. The Ravens held their own without Lamar Jackson against the Packers.
Yeah.
And then, the Patriots and the Buffalo Bills. This playing, I don't know if it would
there's
give
plenty to watch.
I don't know if that would give Buffalo the division lead or not, because I don't know tiebreakers, but that would put the records tied if Buffalo wins that game. It's in New England, though. But, there are a ton of games this week with massive playoff implications I think are going to be really, really good games.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then let's transition our last segment for tonight's show, keeping it short today. We're going to talk about some Pro Bowl snubs. I'm going to start off with my first Pro Bowl snub. He is the number 1 wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Diontae Johnson. He's had a great year this year so far, 86 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's been the leading receiver in Pittsburgh. The target numbers are absolutely insane. And I thought he was going to make the Pro Bowl, but, I guess his name is not quite big enough. I would have put him in the Pro Bowl over Stephon Diggs this year. I think he played better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If we're not counting past years and, how we think of someone, I agree with you. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think you got to put a guy like Diontae, who's had a really good year, over Stephon Diggs, who's been up and down, hasn't been super consistent like we've seen before. So that's one of my Pro Bowl snubs. Who is your Pro Bowl snub, Will?
Look, I think it's hard. Let's be honest, it's hard. Like, I look at the NFC quarterbacks, and I think Aaron Rodgers. Yes, I think Tom Brady. Honestly, I'm not sure Tom Brady deserves a Pro Bowl this year, to be completely honest with you. Aaron Rodgers does. I think you can make a debate about Tom Brady compared to some of the other quarterbacks. And then I look at Kyler Murray. And honestly, I look at someone like Stafford with the Rams. I look at Kirk Cousins. And I know part of it is record and all that. But I think there's some other guys at quarterback in the NFC that you could have easily made the case to be on that roster over everybody but Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is the only one that was a sure lock.
Yeah, for sure. Like, as you said, but does Tom Brady really deserve that spot right now? After last week's showing, no. He had been fairly decent before that. But then again, as you said, the weapons that he's had, it's really his name that's carrying him through.
Excuse me. Yeah, right. I think it's his name. And I don't mean kind of slap at Tom Brady, but if I'm saying who's played the most consistent this year at quarterback and who I think has put up the most numbers, and Tom Brady's second year in the system, Matthew Stafford, whole new system, and has come in and put up numbers that I think are amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I just think the quarterback position could have gone a different way. And yeah, people would have been, if Tom Brady had not made the Pro Bowl, it would have been, the media cycle would have been a feeding frenzy. But Kyler Murray over Matthew Stafford?
Yeah. It's tough because, as you said, some of these guys, like at the quarterback position, have been they've just been there for a while. So I think it's kind of is the fan voting, and everyone's just like, yeah. But the guy I'm gonna bring up, who is my biggest Pro Bowl snub in my opinion, he led in fan voting. He led the NFL for outside linebackers. I'm going with my boy Haasan Reddick. I do not understand how he did not make the Pro Bowl this season. He had, I think, twice as many tackles as Chandler Jones, as well as more sacks this year. And Chandler Jones had a 5-sack game at the beginning of the season, and Haasan Reddick still had more sacks throughout the course of the season. Haasan Reddick had, I think, 3 forced fumbles with 2 fumble recoveries as well. And then you look at a guy like Shaquille Barrett, who also made it, had less sacks, less tackles. Shaquille Barrett did have an interception, which Haasan Reddick did not have. But to me, I don't understand how Haasan Reddick didn't make it. He was, as I said, he was the number 1 outside linebacker in the NFC for fan voting. And then after that, the NFL analysts were like, nah, we don't like Haasan Reddick, so he does not get to earn a spot in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And in the Pro Bowl, and to me, it just doesn't make sense. He had an amazing year, 11 sacks, over 60 tackles. More sacks, more tackles than the two other guys. He's been a force to be reckoned with. Him and Brian Burns. Brian Burns did make it, and he will be starting at defensive end for the Pro Bowl team. But yeah, I don't know. I don't get how Haasan Reddick didn't make the team.
I think it's the biggest fan pet peeve about the Pro Bowl. Is a lot of guys get it every year based on what they've done before, and not what they're doing this year.
Yeah.
And, well, I mean, of course, of course, this player is this Hall of Famer. But that doesn't mean they're playing well this year.
Nope.
Right, and I think it's one of the more annoying things about the Pro Bowl is I'd rather see it almost go to all fan voting.
Yeah.
Just with the fans. I mean, if you want the fans to watch the game and buy in, then, and I get there's guys that have in their contracts to get extra amount of bonus money if they make the Pro Bowl. I get it. But maybe, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I don't even think they should play the Pro Bowl, to be completely honest. I think it's a joke. It's a waste of time.
It is.
So, and I think it hurts, like you say, when the fans are voting for somebody like, hey, this guy's really putting it up this year, and they just, the system gets stacked against those players that are actually doing well this year.
Yeah, no, it's not like Haasan Reddick didn't have an amazing year last year as well. He had 12 and a half sacks. He just isn't a big name like some of your other Chandler Jones and all that. So, I don't know. It just annoys me as a Panthers fan for sure that a guy like that who was number one voted for fans, he's had an amazing season, 11 sacks, and we're not done. He could very well be. Exactly. Like 11 sacks, that's amazing. I don't know exactly where that ranks within current standings, but the one guy I didn't bring up who I think did definitely deserve the spot over Haasan Reddick was Robert Quinn.
Oh, yeah.
For the Bears, who's up to 16 sacks or something now, I think. So I think for sure, I think it should have been Quinn and Haasan Reddick as the starters with Shaquille Barrett coming off with Chandler Jones not making the roster, just because Chandler Jones had that 5-sack season, but a 5-sack game, but outside of that, he's only had 4.5 sacks the rest of the season. And that impact
when they needed him.
Yeah, when JJ Watt went down,
yes,
Chandler Jones hasn't been able to show up.
Yeah. And no offense, Chandler Jones, I wish he was on Vikings.
Yeah,
but dude, where you been?
Yeah, I love Chandler Jones as well. I think he's a great guy.
Yeah,
I think he's a great player. He just this year the Pro Bowl is supposed to be the best players this year, which, as you said, the Pro Bowl's a joke, anyways. But it should be the players this year who had the best seasons. And these are just like three guys who we think, had great seasons, but did not make it on. But yeah, let us know if you want to make a media virtual press conference about your biggest Pro Bowl snub. Tag me, Pro Football Craze, or tag media. Post it on Instagram. I'll definitely view it. I will get back to you with my thoughts on that player for sure. So definitely do that. But yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining, Will. Thanks to everyone who watched. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you come back next week for your fantasy football championship advice. I'm thinking next week's show is going to be about players we think are going to be on majority of championship rosters. After the season, every year, ESPN release, this player was on blank amount of championship rosters. So I think we are going to be projecting who those players are. Last year, Alvin Kamara was on an insane amount of championship winning rosters because he put up that 56-point week. I started Alvin Kamara and still lost my fantasy football championship last year, but I was up so early. We were all watching the game. I was laughing. And then if I had started Jamison Crowder over Le'Veon Bell, I would have won.
There's the story. We're talking about Le'Veon Bell and Jamison Crowder. Okay.
Yeah. If I had started, Jamison Crowder had like 20-something points that week. And he was chilling on my bench. I only needed like 3 more points to win, and Le'Veon only put up 4. But as I said, thanks for joining, guys. I hope you enjoyed. And thanks again, Will, for always
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Bye. We are